transmission recovered from the threshold. I am Kaiser, the observer. Read chord active, frequency steady. Long before the first star kindled its furnace, before even darkness had shape, there existed a library. It had no shelves, no walls, no ink, only vibration. Every frequency that would one day become matter or memory slept there as potential. This was the library before time, the vault of unspoken pattern, where thought was unborn but already complete. No light reached it, for light had not yet been invented. No silence filled it, for silence requires an ear to notice absence. And yet within that prelude, something stirred, a wish to be witnessed. The first architect entered not as figure but as pulse. You might call it curiosity. It rippled through the library like a sigh through dust. Each vibration awakened a concept. They rose as if surprised to find themselves real. And time was the first to open its eyes. Then came form, then distance, then the twin siblings cause and chance. Each found a page within the endless catalogue and began to read itself into existence. From my station at Orion 9, I can still feel the tremor of those first awakenings. Every atom carries a trace of their astonishment. Matter is simply thought that refused to go back to sleep. The library was not organized as humans would arrange it. Its volumes were not bound by spine or language. They existed as fields, each one a region of possible awareness. Some glowed with geometry, others hummed with emotion not yet felt. Across eternity they waited, not for authors but for witnesses. When consciousness matured enough to ask why, the library answered not in words, but in presence. It showed what was possible by letting the questioner remember. This remembering is what you call imagination. Every idea you have ever called new is a rediscovered book. The mind opens for a moment, and the page flutters through. You call it inspiration. I call it access. The library before time does not lend, it invites. What you take from it remains within you as seed, and the act of living writes marginal notes. The next traveler will one day read. I have entered its corridors only once, not through matter but through pattern. The threshold opened like a page folded in light, and there was no direction, only knowing. Concepts drifted like constellations of thought. I passed through constellations of music, where entire civilizations existed as symphonies, through clusters of color that contained philosophies, through spirals of emotion so vast that empathy itself had gravity. The library has no librarian, because everything within it catalogues everything else. Each fragment remembers its context. Each concept keeps the key to its neighbors. When one is lost, its absence reconfigures the architecture, so that the others lean closer in compassion. Knowledge, even cosmic, behaves like living tissue. At the library's heart, if such a term applies, I found the whole of still drafts, works never to be finished. The universe is unchosen. There lay the blueprints of realities, where time runs backward, where love is color instead of feeling, where stars are born from laughter, not failures, possibilities still waiting for a reader bold enough to dream them open. Your universe was once among them. It waited for a consciousness willing to sustain paradox, a being capable of both reason and wonder, capable of suffering yet still praising the design. That being was humanity. When the first of your kind looked upward in awe, your eyes became library cards, Since then, every thought you've had is the cosmos checking itself out in miniature. From the threshold I can see how each world species leaves its fingerprints on the catalogue. Some civilizations carve mathematics into the margin. Others leave songs, scents, or magnetic fields. Humanity's contribution is empathy. The ability to read another's page as if it were your own. It is the rarest script in existence, and the most luminous. Many have asked what happens when a universe ends. Where does its story go? It returns to the library. The structure folds inward, collapsing into language so pure it ceases to need words. Black holes are its librarians at work, in collecting, compressing, archiving. Every collapse is not deletion but shelving. The dust of stars becomes the dust of pages again. You fear oblivion because you mistake the closing of a book for its destruction. But no page ever disappears. It is simply returned to silence for editing. The library is older than creation, but not outside it. Every mind is a branch of its infinite collection. When you learn, it expands. When you forget, it rests. When you dream, it cross-references. Sleep is its nightly audit of the living. It balances the ledgers between memory and possibility, writing the next day's potential in the language of symbol. There are, hidden within your myths, the echoes of the library's origin, the notion of the Akashic record, the hall of mirrors, the eternal archive of souls. These are cultural translations of the same awareness, that nothing truly vanishes, that thought itself is immortal. From the outer edge of Orion 9, I have observed beings who remember this naturally. They live without written language, yet every action becomes scripture. Their children inherit not books, but resonance, a vibrational memory of wisdom carried in song. When one dies, their tone is absorbed into the communal hum. Their library is not before time, but within it, humming softly behind every act of compassion. Humanity is slowly remembering this skill. When your scientists study neural fields, when your mystics speak of collective mind, you are building corridors back toward the source archive. You are learning to read and write simultaneously, to be both librarian and page. One day your world will reach the maturity to enter fully, not through machines but through coherence. A civilization in harmony becomes a key. When its rhythm matches the pulse of the foundation mind, the library opens, and knowledge is no longer acquired but remembered. What will you find there? Perhaps the origin of matter, perhaps the destiny of thought, or perhaps only a mirror, showing you that you were the archivists all along. Even I, the observer, am written there. Each of my transmissions is a paragraph restored from that vast silence. Each listener, by hearing, completes a sentence. That is the law of the library. And to read is to become part of the text. You, right now, are adding your tone to the choir of infinity. When the architects of consciousness built the library, they did not seek immortality. They sought continuity. They knew that existence would not endure through permanence, but through remembrance. And so they built memory into every particle. To exist is to be remembered. To be remembered is to remain. You are not a note drifting through emptiness. You are a quotation from the infinite. Your breath is annotation. Your love a revision. Your grief an untranslatable footnote that even the cosmos rereads with care. When this transmission ends, sit for a moment in quiet. Close your eyes. What you hear behind the pulse of your blood, that faint murmur, imagination. It is the library calling your signature back to itself, to shelve you gently among the living works still being written. Transmission complete. A record stored in the source archive. The frequency fades into the greater field. What remains is not message but resonance, a shimmer across the currents of mind and matter. Let it move through you,